Like, love, in fact. Love it as a drill. Bum, 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 bum. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Coach Tom Hall, master degree in sports performance and biomechanics, and educator of a billion personal trainers. What's going on? Hope you're having fun. I hope you're having a pleasant day. We're going to be reviewing a freakishly and amazing athlete. Sydney McLaughlin-levrone. He'll be up there somewhere. I can't remember. I know she just was Sydney McLaughlin, but obviously married, double-barreled it. Amazing athlete. I actually saw her in Paris live when she smashed the 400-meter hurdle world records. Absolutely wow, absolutely crazy. And considering we saw Femke Bol about a month ago, I did a video on her, and her training was nuts as well. So I feel like I wanted to see what Sydney's was like, because it's got to be out there, right? And I personally think the gym sessions of either NFL athletes, rugby players, or actual athletics people, they win in the gym. Oh, so good. If the gym was an Olympic sport, these guys would win, right? So without further ado, let's have a little looky. Oof, lovely. I've seen this video before, reviewed by a lad called Fred Duncan, I believe. I can't remember who her coach is. They're having a wonderful time. But there's some interesting stuff that happens in this video. Yeah, some real interesting stuff. This is very much on the 80-20 rules of there is stuff that we just wouldn't normally do as normal folk, right? And she is training for obviously 400 meters, but the hurdles and stuff is quite specific. There might be some weird stuff in there that I'm going to be like, I don't quite know. I'd like the explanation, but we'll endeavour to try and explain. We will endeavour. Right, that was cool, right? Some new stuff. That was obviously not like the heavyweight session. She's in a variety of different clothes. This is just snippets taken from a few sessions. Well, definitely, I think one. There, possibly a different one. I don't know. Was she wearing pink? No. Anyway, we're not doing Sydney McLaughlin's coach's dress code, are we? So, right, straight in. Lovely. Right, so obviously hurdlers. Going to be drilling, I think, athletic drills for anybody. If you can go do hop series, run series, skip series, any kind of high knee, high heel, butt kicks, all that kind of exchanges, it will dramatically improve you as an athlete, just straight away, right? Or as just a human running around. So through these, she's trying to keep, right? So torso is high. You can see that immediately, okay? So, but if we're quick, we might be able to see it. So in this position, beautiful. Like, look at that, straight down, bosh, straight out, and then this, and then this. Okay, so really cool on the fact that she is long and strong. She's taking really, everything is in line. This is a beautiful 90 degree, so her hip flexor is driving this guy up. This projects pretty much straight down, so you have that almost vertical tibia, but that kind of projection. But I want you to really notice the position of this, her ankle. She is going up. She is imagining that her toes and her feet are going into her shin with every single repetition, right? So put that through. She's picking up every single time. These are a kind of crossover between high knees. I don't think they're butt kicks. But normally on butt kicks, people do that stupid thing where their knee stays down. But on a butt kick, your knee should come up and you should try and hit your butt from that high knee position, not from just keeping your knee low, right? There's a big difference. I will show that in the future. But yeah, these are really nice. Just a normal high knee kind of sprint gait drill. right? Because that is almost the position. If she was to open that out, she would be rapid. I'm sorry. And she's obviously trying to move slowly. She's only trying to move like half a meter at a time and get that quick turnover, right? Nice. Like, love, in fact. Love it as a drill. Bum, 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 bum. Then these. All right. The bamboo bar. I've got a feeling that this coach has been a coach for a while. I've got no problem with the bamboo bar. All right, so one, overhead-based athlete. Absolutely, she's not an overhead athlete. Overhead-based work is done for posture, right? So as soon as you take your hand overhead, what happens with your torso? You go up. So maintaining that tall posture will give her room. So if she is up here, it gives her room here for her knee to be able to come up. Simple, right? So if she's tall, she has more leverage in her lower body, therefore she's able to take bigger, more powerful steps, which is pretty good. Should be right for the runner, right? All right, so bamboo. Oh, it's a weird one, isn't it? So obviously on the bamboo bar, the weights are dangling by bands. There's lots of like little perturbations of movements, and she's having to stabilize massively through everything around her hip and that hip capsule and everything around on her foot and her ankle. I'd imagine it would be good for kind of proprioceptiveness, if that's a thing, a word. I personally think it would be a struggle if she just loaded a barbell there. I don't think the bamboo nature of it is doing anything apart from maybe a little bit of fun because she seems to enjoy it. So that might be worth it by itself, right? Training should be fun, otherwise it is boring. So she's having a bit of a challenge, okay? So she's got that torso wobbling all over the place. She's having a bit of fun. Maybe they normally do it with just a loaded barbell, just overhead. That's probably what I'd do. And she's doing it. Essentially, it's just a overhead march with a bamboo bar. That's all it is. Or a stability bar. Cool. All right, that's a pretty not seen very often piece of equipment. So these, they could be standing here, facing this way, and doing something called hip abduction. So you know when you swing your leg from side to side, they could be doing adduction. It's a single leg machine. Or right here, you could swing it backwards for like hamstrings, or you can push it forwards like she's doing for hip flexors, right? So she is thinking about this part of her leg, which this goes into, if we were talking about the stuff before, is done by most athletes. This is hip flexor, so very associated with her hurdles, okay? She is a high hurdler, so she's got to get over hurdles, she's got to create hip flexion massively while she gets over those hurdles throughout the whole time, right? So, and that will fatigue in her competition. So big hip flexor drill, really, really cool. That's just training everything in there. There's some other ones, like you might see some hip flexor work where you move your torso and your leg is static, like a hip flexor sit up. You might see that if you went and Google that. But this is the reverse chain of that. So you've actually got your leg moving your torso. So it's a lot more running specific mechanics, which we like. I like all of these so far. The bamboo bar, I've just been off and just doing all bubba. This one's weird. Sydney McLaughlin insane gym workouts. Yeah, this one's a weird one. I don't quite get this one. I'm assuming rate of force development. So rate of force development is just how quickly you produce force, okay? So I'm assuming the lad, so in direct contrast to what she just did, where she was like moving maybe a little bit more load, she is having to go into deep knee flexion as quickly as possible. So she's projecting, so you can see here, projecting up in that kind of triple extended position. So she's got a calf raise here, and then she's having to put massive amount of hip flexion, rapid amount of hip flexion very quickly. Meh. I think that's a unique and neat way of doing it. and it's pretty specific for her sport. So we'll let her have that. I don't think the average Joe is going in and kicking med balls. I'm assuming it's only like a 2 kilo med ball, or like maybe they actually have like 2-3 pound ones in the States, so you don't tend to see them much over here. Alright, that was cool. Like that. Right, so we just have Suitcase Carry on one side. So she's going through a massive amount of lateral anti-flexion. So this is trying to drag her down here. This side is stretching that way so that she's resisting and pulling down. And then this side is trying to stay up. So you've got that bit happening and that bit happening, okay, to keep her level. Really, really neat. I do these a lot with people, right? Because that torso position for a lot of people will be something they need to keep strong, and keeping their hips really super level with that extra load on one side, they're having to accommodate based off what's happening in their core, right? This is like practical core training, because she'll be going to Walmart probably, or to Target, that's Target, but posh. She'll be doing that at some point during the day, and she'll have to carry her shopping home. I'm joking, guys, Jesus. Right, these ones. This is pretty standard, right? We've seen these a fair bit now, and I think people are realizing it's okay to quarter squat. It just needs an application. Right, so for force generation, we are going, I'd say that's pretty quartery, isn't it? There, I'm a bit meh with the neck pad. Come on, Sydney, you're a world record holder. You put yourself through absolute pain whilst doing that, and you won't put a barbell on your back. Okay, fine. So these are big. So 1, 2, let's say 3 plates. So let's go 100, 150, maybe 170, 180 kilos on there. Maybe. I don't really know. Maybe. If they're 25s. Not too sure. She's moving pretty quickly though, so I imagine she's stronger than me. So they're cool. All right, we know about rate of force development. She's trying to get the top portion. She will be going deeper hip flexion throughout her running style, but she'll be producing the most force in that portion of gait, right? Where if she was on one leg here and running this bit, so when she drives out the blocks, she'll be creating that force from that position of hip flexion, a hip bend, a knee bend, right? So, and then she goes through there. Boom. And up. Good. Absolutely fine. I don't think there's anything we need to say about those. This one is really interesting. I don't really know what's happening there. I'll try my best to guess, an educated guess. So she's on a belt squat machine, and that is going up and down. She's transferring force onto each socket and each hip equally from one side to the other. So that would dictate, I'm assuming, some sort of lateral based stability work. And she's having to take extra load other than her body weight and something that's dragging her down, essentially. So it's obviously tough, and she's having to keep that up anyway under a little bit of knee flexion, and imagine it's dragging her hips, and she's having to, it wants to drag you down, okay? It wants to get you here. So interesting, really interesting. I think it's probably just the transference of all that weight trying to drag you down and trying to keep nice and tall is essentially a stability based exercise, and maybe a hip resilience based exercise, I'd imagine, right? That's my educated guess. This one, no idea. I think that's just for fun. She's in a dead buggy kind of sit-up position. Answers on a postcard. Comment down below what you think is happening here. What's the point of that? I think it's just, so in athletics, right? So I used to train very bad, really, really damn amateurly, right? So running for like South of England's and county schools levels and stuff like this. So we'd at training. It's the only time I've ever been submitted to crazy core workouts. And it is a very traditional thing, I think, for athletic-based coaches who are skill coaches and technical coaches firsthand. Then they turn into S&C coaches, so they don't always have the best knowledge sometimes of strength and conditioning, but they tend to want to get your abs and everything firing as much as possible, which I totally get, because it's got to create a lot of torque, and you've got that thing called vertical and horizontal and kind of lateral oscillation, right? So that you don't want that much to happen when you're running, right? You torso very still, legs boom, 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 going like the clappers underneath, kind of like a duck, okay? It's very elegant on the top, and its legs are going nuts on the bottom. That's what you want to happen whilst you're running. So you don't want this rocking and rolling to happen. So generally speaking, these crazy ab workouts tend to sit for that reason. But I just think all the other stuff, this is a very core heavy session. If this was one session, would do the jobs. Yeah. Okay, and then we got eccentric overloaded sit ups, essentially. So this is eccentric. So where she's taken this is really far away from what is making her move, okay? So if this weight was only here, it wouldn't be as much force, because the moment arm is all the way over here, it's making her have even more force on that lever, all right? So it's an eccentric overloaded, and then she's back into the setup basically. And then these are pretty like normal drills, aren't they? Sort of like a running, cycling thing. You kind of get it on crazy abs, but she's just legitimately ridiculous, isn't she? So let's after going through that, let's just count how many abdominal exercises that she's put in there, okay? Essentially, for core-based things. So not that one. Number 1, I would say this is core. She's loving life. Not that one. So it's 2 for something else, 1 for the core. He's tired. 3 for other stuff, 1 for core. 2. 3, 2. 4, 2. 4 for other stuff, 2 for core. We know we're going to get there at some point. We'll put it in core. It's going to make my point. 4 for other stuff, 3 for core. 4, 4. 5, 4 for core. 6, 4 for core. Does that highlight how much of a core session that was? I think that is either, I'm pretty sure this is after running training or technical training, or on a completely separate day, I would imagine. All right, we'll let that run through and we'll give a little summary, shall we? All right, so that was, pretty cool, I'd say. It gives you a little of an outline of what can go through. I think it was a gym-based session. I don't think she was going out post this to do any running. I can't imagine so. Or at least it would be an hour or so before she does it. I think this was probably after her running, I'd imagine. But then it makes me question it. I think all of this stuff, apart from, but I think this is on a different session. So for that bit, I don't think would be post-running. I'm unsure. I don't think so, but it's partial range, so it could be. All this other stuff, I think, definitely sits as a post-running or post-technical day workout. Definitely no winner races, which is really cool. All right, there you go. Apparently you just got to have a sick core and you win 400 meter hurdles, world records and medals. So that's all I'm going to be doing. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you take away some of that, but have the realization of perhaps you can have a little bit of variation amongst core-based exercises, or we name them differently as resilience-based stuff that is able to have a transference of skill over to making you do your sport or your client's sports even better than they do but now. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.